From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is U.S. Farm Report.
Welcome to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. I'm Tyne Morgan, and here's what's in store over the next 60 minutes. USDA's cattle inventory numbers are out, and it shows scars of the drought continue to weigh on ranchers.
Yeah, it's the lowest beef cow herd that we've seen since NASS started making its official recordings back in 1972.
As beef cow inventory reached the lowest point since 1972. So what it means for prices in the months ahead. Sustainable aviation fuel may be taking off. Which airline is paying up for corn ethanol? $600 per acre cash rent.
Well, I would say we're not driving up cash rental rates. It's your fellow farmers that are actually being more competitive, more aggressive.
A new way to cash rent is gaining traction across the U.S. We'll tell you why. And in John's world,
the changing economics of gasoline.
Now for the news, the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show happening this week in New Orleans. The industry looking ahead after a year that saw many producers bring their cattle to market early due to drought. And that is the talk of this year's convention, the size of the beef herd, which is continuing to shrink. USDA just releasing its twice yearly cattle inventory report, and the numbers are breaking records. The report shows there are 89.3 million head of cattle. That's down 3% from last January. And most of the rest of the numbers, those are down as well, with all cows and heifers that have calved down 3%, all heifers 500 pounds and over down 4%, and beef replacement heifers, those are down 6%. The numbers are all pointing to more signs that water, feed, and pasture conditions continue to be tight.
Yeah, it's the lowest beef cow herd that we've seen since NASS started making its official recordings back in 1972. So it's the lowest on record. Since then, it moves below the low point of 2014.
The 2022 calf crop is also down 2%. Schmal says with that being on a decline, he does not see a rebuilding of the herd anytime soon. Other news important to the cattle production, the U.S. is now requesting a second USMCA dispute panel to probe the revised Canadian dairy TRQ plan. U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai announcing the formal request. It comes after revisions to the tariff rate quotas following an earlier dispute panel ruling failed to bring Canada into compliance with the PAC's dairy market access provisions. Now, Canada's Minister of International Trade criticized the call for a second panel, saying it will continue to defend its supply management system, as well as the market access that Canada and the U.S. have agreed on. Well, another potential trade issue that the U.S. is watching, Mexico's proposed ban on GMO corn. But now Mexico is placing a temporary 50% tariff on its white corn exports. The Mexican government issuing a decree saying it would be in place until June 30th. The country attempting to control rising prices of the commodity. The decree saying, quote, in order to guarantee a sufficient supply, it's necessary to maintain national production in our country and ensure market conditions that allow stabilization of its price, end quote. It says white corn makes up 89% of its grain production. Much of it is in the form of tortillas. Its reported prices for tortillas shot up 19% last year. You'll remember the U.S. and Mexico are currently in negotiations over the country's plan to ban imports of U.S. GMO corn by up to 40% by 2024. Well, sustainable aviation fuel could soon be taking off. United Airlines is teaming up with a corn ethanol maker in order to ramp up production of its green jet fuel. United Airlines and biofuels producer Green Plains and energy infrastructure firm Tallgrass Energy Partners are all investing up to $50 million to form Blue Blade Energy. Its goal is to create technology that would simplify making sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, from feedstock and bring it to market by 2028. The venture centers around the idea that ethanol will beat out other commodities like vegetable oil as a preferred ingredient for making green jet fuel. Market analysts continue to revise what meeting these goals will ultimately mean for farmers.
The RVO came down from EPA back in December, late November, December, and so that adjusted our acreage a little bit. We now think it's somewhere between 14 or 15 million acres additional that we need by 2026, looking forward in terms of soybean acres. But that demand pull for acres is so large. We have reached peak farmland in the United States. There are no more extra acres unless we start seeing a release from the CRP program.
United Airlines Venture president says the initial investment is for testing. If that's a success, then hundreds of millions in financing would be needed to build an initial production plant. That's followed by a facility that could start operating by 2028. That's it for the news. Well, icy weather crippling parts of the South this week. So what is meteorologist Andrew Whitmire watching next week? It's brutal cold. We'll tell you where that will hit coming up next.
U.S. Farm Report is brought to you by Duracade Viptera.